Good morning, students. This is Milind S. Shinde, Assistant Professor in English at this College of Commerce, Varda. Already we have discussed two poems. Actually, we are going to discuss a poem, Telephone Conversation, written by Wolf-Soyinka, which is prescribed for BCom third semester in the subject Supplementary English. So, this poem, Telephone Conversation, written by this great poet Wolf-Soyinka, is about telephone conversation, of course, as the title suggests it. Now, there are two very important words in the title itself, that is telephone, it means phone, that we use for conversation, and another word is conversation. These two words have their own importance, their own significance so far as this poem is concerned, because this conversation is not between two persons of the same socio-cultural background. Why did I say that these two words are very important? It's because the speakers in this poem are from different racial backgrounds. Before going to discuss the main part of the poem, I would like to give you some information, basic information about Wolf-Soyinka, the poet of this poem. Why I am using this word, or why I am giving emphasis on the thing that the speaker or the listener who are shown in this poem, Telephone Conversation, belong to two different races, or they're from different racial backgrounds, because the entire poem revolves around this particular very important point, because we are going to discuss this poem in context of the United States of America, where all of you know, the entire world knows that where the problem of race is rampant. You'll find this problem of race in the United States of America even in the 21st century. Even when we see that Barack Obama was the president of that greatest democratic nation, still there is this problem. Definitely slavery is no more. It has been totally abolished by the law of the land. But still, even today, you will find the racial tension exists, prevails in that country. As we have here the caste system, they have the racial problems. So this entire poem revolves around this focal point, around this important point, and we are going to discuss this through the conversation pattern in which this poem has been written by this Wolf-Soyinka poet. So, as in the beginning, I told that we are going to discuss, somewhat basic information about this poet. I'd like to tell you about this poet. Wolf-Soyinka was born in the year 1934. Was born in Nigeria. He was Nigerian by birth and educated in England. But he came to England for pursuing education. He actively participated in Nigeria's struggle for independence from the British rule. It means the Britishers were the rulers in his own land, in his native country, in his native place, in his own nation, that is Nigeria, and he was active in that struggle for the liberation, for the independence, for the freedom of his nation, that is Nigeria. A playwright. Playwright means he has written some plays, dramas. Poet, we are seeing Wolf-Soyinka in form of a poet, as we are going to discuss his poem, Telephone Conversation. He is a well acknowledged, well recognized poet. Essayist, it means he must have written some essays also. He has written some essays. He was a teacher also, and a political activist, as he participated in the struggle movement for the liberation of his country. Soyinka is the first African to be awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. This is very important thing for all of us to know about this great author and poet Wolf-Soyinka. He has been awarded, was conferred with the Nobel Prize in Literature for his contribution to the field of literature, and he was awarded this greatest prize of the world, that is Nobel Prize in Literature, in the year 1986. He worked as a professor of comparative literature. He was the professor, he was basically a teacher, he was the professor of comparative literature at the University of Life. Now they have changed the name of the university, and it is known today as Obafemi Awolowo University from 1975 to 1999. He has been a professor of creative writing at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. His teaching assignments have taken him to Oxford. He was appointed in Oxford, he was invited as a professor at Oxford also, Cambridge University, Harvard University, Yale University, and other eminent universities of the USA as well as England. Soyinka has been a vocal critic of Nigeria's military regimes and political dictators. He was against the military rule which was there in his own nation, in his own country, that is Nigeria. So he had a kind of democratic spirit in himself, and he fought for that lofty cause. Soyinka has been a vocal critic of Nigeria's military regimes and political dictators. His works, among other things, portray, describe, delineate, tells the consequences of political greed and oppression. OPPRESSION, oppression of the common people. The poem. Now we'll speak about this poem, Telephone Conversation. The poem brings to fore what? The discrimination, bhedbhav, that we say in Hindi. Discrimination that exists, that prevails, which is there, that in a multiracial society. The poem also highlights the prejudices that people harbor under the veil of civilization and sophistication. So many people show that they are civilized, they are sophisticated, they treat all the people equally, but somewhere in their mind and heart we find that some different thoughts are there. So these kind of people are also there in the world, and that's why he criticizes, he castigates those people for their this kind of double role in the society. They show something different, but they actually appear to be different. They are actually somewhat different so far as their thinking, their social thinking is concerned. The poem ends on an assertive note with the black man turning the tables on the white lady in their battle of wits and exchange of words. In the very beginning I told that there is speaker, there is listener, but actually both are the speakers, because one black man is shown in this poem, and he tries to talk, or actually he is talking to a landlady who belongs to white race. So this conversation takes place between these two people, and we see how the race works in African as well as American countries, especially in the USA. So we will go stanza by stanza, and I would explain you the meanings of the lines. Now see, two persons are there because it is in dialogue pattern. Okay, one speaker is black, from a black race, and another person who is there on the other side is a white, and that white person who is actually a landlady, okay, has a kind of superiority complex in herself. She thinks, she feels that she was somewhat superior to the rest of the people belonging to the black race, African race. Today we use the word Afro-Americans for those people. Earlier some different words were in vogue, but today we do not use those words. Today the word which is in fashion which is used largely across the world for that particular section of people who belong basically to Africa but today are living in America. They are known as Afro Americans or African Americans. So let's begin the poem. The price seemed reasonable, location indifferent. The landlady swore she lived off premises. Now one black man has called to one person, that person is a landlady, and he wants to have a home on rent, and that person means that white landlady says that I do not live in the premises of that house. I live somewhat in the different location. It is a peaceful place. We can live there. Now see, it is a simple conversation between white landlady and a black person, black man. Nothing remained but self-confession. When that white landlady tells about this, that the house is in good condition, it is a wonderful place, and she does not live in that premises also, the person, the black man who wants to live in that house on rent confesses one thing. Actually, this confession word has its own meaning, because so far as religion is concerned, you must have heard that the people go to the church and they confess about whatever they have done wrong in the past. So somewhere this word confession has somewhere the association with the wrongdoings, but so far as the conversation, or so far as the black man who wants to be a tenant, okay, in the house of that white landlady, doesn't have this kind of past of doing something wrong, but still the poet Volsoenka has used this word confession, and he confesses. I will also use the same word here as it is given in the poem itself. He confesses, he reveals, he himself tells what? That, but self-confession, madam, the black man is telling now that white landlady. Who owns that house? And here, black man who's going to be a tenant now. Okay. But self-confession, madam, I hate a wasted journey. I am African. This shows that the black man is quite aware of the tension which is there in the American countries, in the American continent, especially in the USA as well as the African nations. The tension of what? Racial tension, black and white, racial conflict. He is quite well aware, and that's why in the very beginning that black man wants to live in the house which is owned by that white landlady. He confesses, I am African, I hate a wasted journey. Silence, transmission of pressurized good breathing. Voice, when it came, lipstick coated, long gold rolled cigarette holder, tip caught, I was found. When the black man confesses, when the black man reveals this fact that he is African, he belongs to Afro-American community, there is grave silence. There is pin drop silence. The person who is on the other side, that is white landlady, does not speak a single word. There is grave silence. There is total silence. And why this silence is there? The roots of this is definitely in her feeling of being superior than the other people. So there is this silence, and then black man thinks about that white landlady, that she must have used lipstick, she must be holding a cigarette in her hand, etc. Okay, he comes to know about the thinking of that landlady, the mentality of that white landlady and her superiority complex, and that's why he has used these words describing at psychological level pressurized, crude breathing, voice when it came, lipstick coated, long gold rolled, cigarette holder tipped. What I was following. And next, in the next stanza, it says, actually see. Now, the conversation was started by white landlady that the house is good and it is in the good area, it is in the good locality, you can live there, etc. This is not described in detail in the poem, but we have to assume that they might have talked like this, okay, because she has talked about the place and that she herself does not live in that premises. It means the house is in good condition and the tenant can live there without any kind of tension, without any kind of pressure, etc. But when the black man reveals his racial identity, that he belongs to African community or Afro-American community, there is a grave silence. It means, it shows that the white landlady does not like it. And this reveals her mentality also, right? Now, again, after this, after the confession about this fact, about this reality of his being African, there is grave silence, and then the white landlady starts speaking. She says, "How dark?" Is it a question? It is quite absurd question. It is quite silly question. She must have asked about the profession of that black man, about the family of that black man, about his behavior, etc. But she does not ask anything like this to that black man, and instead she focuses the entire conversation on one point only. At that one point is, that single point is what? The race. She continues to speak about the race, about the skin color of her would-be tenant, that is the black man. And she asks, that white landlady asks this very absurd question, how dark? She's talking about the skin color of the black man. I had not misheard. And on this, black man says, or he thinks that whether he has heard something wrong. So he excuses, he says, I have not misheard. Whether I heard something wrong? Are you light? White landlady continues. How dark? First question that the white landlady asks to the black man, and after that she again says, are you light? Are you light? It means she is speaking about the skin color of the black man, or very dark. Button B, button A. Stench. Stench means smell, not fragrance. Smell, foul smell of rancid breath of public hide and seek. I'll explain you this line. Red booth, red pillar box, red double-tiered omnibus, squelching tar. Okay, squelching tar. It means when the white landlady says whether you are dark or light or very dark, it is just like we have only two options, select A or select B. Press one number button or the button number 2. It is not so easy. How can you define a person in terms of the color? Definitely it's wrong. It is actually dehumanizing. You are actually insulting the person instead of you. But this white landlady doesn't mind it. She has in herself that superiority complex and says and asks this question, this very insulting question, humiliating question, whether you are dark or light. The entire conversation is focused on only one point here, and that is the skin color, the race, the skin color of the black man who wants to live in a home as a tenant. So it's really a very serious point. All the people of the world should think about this. By ill-mannered silence, it was real shame. By ill-mannered silence, again there is silence, because the black man does not answer. her question when she asks, how dark? Are you light or very dark? This silly question, it is not actually silly question, it is insulting question, surrender, pushed, dumbfounded to beg simplification. There is again grave silence, this time also. No conversation. On both the ends there is silence and silence and silence only, and then considerate she was wearing the emphasis, are you dark or very light? Revelation came, you mean like plain or milk chocolate? Now, black man has understood everything, whatever is going on in the head of that racist white landlady. I would like to use this particular word, racist, because she has this kind of thinking. She thinks about the skin color of that black man instead of knowing about his profession and all the other details. Because at last he is going to be just a tenant, right, in a house. But instead of asking those related or relevant questions, she has dared to ask this question about the skin color. Are you dark or very light? Revelation came, you mean like plain or milk chocolate? Now, the black man speaks cleverly. He plays a trick there and he gives somewhat options, or he pushes some questions towards that white landlady and plays with the words here and gives very sharp replies or clever replies to the white landlady. You mean like plain or milk chocolate? Do you want to know about my color, whether it's like plain or milk chocolate? Yes. Her accent was clinical. Her speaking was quite emotionless when she asked whether his skin color is dark or very dark or light. Those words had no feelings, no emotions at all. There was no any kind of regard, there was no any kind of respect for a human being. And he criticizes this particular thing which was there in the white landlady. Her accent was clinical, emotionless, crushing in its light, impersonality, rapidly wavelength adjusted at hues, and he again cleverly replied. Now this time confusing that white landlady. He answers with his words, I choose West African sepia. He very cleverly used this word, West African sepia. Instead of replying her directly, whether it is dark or very dark or light or yellow or white, etc., he chose to answer with these words that he belongs to West African sepia. And what happened next? Let's see. And as after thought, down in my passport, and as it is given in my passport, you can see my passport, I am West African sepia. Actually, see, the white landlady could not understand these words, West African sepia. She did not understand anything of this. Silence for spectroscopic, there was again silence because the white landlady didn't know the meaning of this. Flight of fancy till truthfulness, clanged her accent, hard on the mouth is. What's that? And that's why, as she got confused, as she could not understand the meaning of this West African sepia, she asked, what is that? What is the meaning of that? Considering, acknowledging that she was quite ignorant of these words. She says, don't know what that is. Now again, the black man is playing with the words and again answering very, very sharply, very, very cleverly. Like brunette. I have written the meaning of this word. Brunette. Brunette means dark color. That's dark, isn't it? It means dark color, isn't it? Not altogether. Facially, I am brunette, but madam, you should see the rest of me. Now, this is a very important question because we should not know the persons by their color or all these physical features, but so many other things are also there that we should take into consideration in order to know about that person. So he says that would-be tenant, the black man says, facially I am brunette, means dark color, but madam, you should see the rest of me. So many other qualities are also there in me. You should think about those qualities also, those features, those characteristics also, those qualities also, those good things also. Just ask me about the color of my palm of my hand, soles of my feet are peroxide blonde. They don't have either color, or they are colorless, or they are pale or yellowish. You ask about this thing also. Why you ask me about my skin color? Ask me about the color of my palm and the sole of my foot. Foolishly man, by sitting down, has turned my bottom raven black. One moment, ma'am, sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap. Means when he senses that white landlady is going to hang up her telephone, he says, ma'am, just give me 1 minute more. I would like to reveal some more things. I would like to confess some more things. I would like to tell you some more things about myself, about my ears. Would you like to hear about my ears? The color of my ears? Madam, I pleaded, I requested. Wouldn't you rather see for yourself? Have you thought of yourself? Have you thought about yourself? No. You are just interested in knowing about my skin color. Now, what is the gist of this poem? That we should think about the qualities which are there in the person. Only skin color is not important, and I think, or the poet himself also thinks, that skin color is meaningless. We should know, we should think about the entire personality of the person, and if you are interested in knowing the skin color only, then it is useless. But the problem is that this kind of tension, this kind of problem still exists there in the US. Some incidents happen, and this is the main theme of this poem, Telephone Conversation by Soyinka. So this is a wonderful poem written by Soyinka, and it focuses on black and white problem, black and white tension, the racial problem in the USA as well as in other countries of the West. So the message is that we should think about the qualities of the human being and should not focus on these trivial or meaningless issues. And if we think that we are the real human beings, then definitely we should respect the human being as a human being, irrespective of his socio-cultural, religious, racial, or any other background. So this is a wonderful poem which gives us a social message that a human being should be treated and respected with dignity as a human being only. Thank you. We'll stop.